Hey sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. It's time for my monthly dive into the top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay. In this video, I'll be taking a look at cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s that sold in July 2024. Now, one of the things that I observed when putting these lists together is that there were a good number of cards, high-end sales of older PSA slabs. Not sure what that means, but it was something that I noticed. A good number happened to be older slabs. Take from it what you will. Now, for the specific decades, for the 1950s, there are a couple cards that don't normally make the top 10 list. For the 1960s, there's a very unique card that made the top 10 list, and the card at the number 1 spot may surprise you. And for the 1970s, while there's always a few head-scratching sales, this month is no different. There is the first appearance of a very newly popular card showing up on the top 10 list. So let's get right to the cards. Let's start off with the cards from the 1950s. Coming in at number 10, we have this 1956 Topps Mickey Mantle grayback version in a PSA 7.5. This one sold on July 24th for $10,200. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 7.5 is $12,167. Now, if you see an asterisk next to the current VCP average price, it means that that eBay sale was not included in VCP's data and therefore not part of the current average price calculation. The record high sale for a PSA 7.5 was $14,100 back in October of 2023 through eBay. At number 9, we have this 1952 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 5. This one sold on July 8th for $10,850. It was an auction. There were 69 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 5 is $9,857. However, the record high sale was $34,800 back in April of 2022 through REA. Now, there were 4 other significant 52 Topps Willie Mays sales in July. Another PSA 5 copy sold on July 9th for $9,700. Another PSA 5 sold on July 30th for $8,500. A PSA 4 copy sold on July 10th for $6,998. And finally, a PSA 3.5 sold on July 2nd for $6,600. At number 8, we have this 1952 Topps Frank House grayback version in a PSA 2.5. This one sold on July 7th for $11,398. And this is for a 52 Topps card that is not in the high number series. It was an auction. There were 44 bids. The current VCP average price for a 2.5 is this eBay sale here at $11,398 because it is the only recorded sale of a PSA 2.5. It is a newly graded copy. In a PSA 2.5, there have only been 3 graded, and only 24 have been graded higher. At number 7, we have this 1954 Topps Whitey Ford in a PSA 9. This one sold on July 6th for $12,500. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $11,996. The record high sale is $21,553 back in November of 2021 through Mile High. Now, there have been 9 copies graded a PSA 9, but none have been graded a PSA 10. At number 6, we have this 1958 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on July 30th for $13,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $11,860. The record high sale was $20,048 back in September of 2022 through memory lane. At number 5, we have this 1953 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 6. This one sold on July 27th for $14,500. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 6 is $9,953, but the record high sale was $19,800 back in May of 2021 through Heritage. Now, there were two other significant 53 Topps Mickey Mantle cards that sold in July. Another PSA 6 copy sold on July 11th for $10,100, and yet another PSA 6 sold on July 13th for $10,000. At number 4, we have this 1951 Bowman Willie Mays in a PSA 6. This one sold on July 1st for $16,300. It was an auction. There were 69 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 6 is $18,244, but the record high sale was $46,111 back in February of 2022 through memory lane. Now, there was one other significant 51 Bowman Willie Mays card in July. A PSA 5 copy sold on July 25th for $13,422. At number 3, we have this 1957 Topps Don Drysdale rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on July 15th for $26,000. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $30,600, but the record high sale was $44,400 back in February of 2021 through Heritage. Now, there have been 17 graded a PSA 9. None had been graded a PSA 10. At number 2, we have this 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle in a PSA 5. This one sold on July 30th for $32,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 5 is $23,554. The record high sale, though, was $55,100 back in March of 2021 through eBay. Now, there were two other significant 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle cards in July. One was a PSA 5 miscut that sold on July 13th for $13,500, and then a PSA 2 copy sold on July 4th for $9,500. And at the number 1 spot for July, we have this 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle in a authentic altered condition. This one sold on July 30th for $35,000. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for an authentic altered copy is $32,321, but the record high sale was $81,600 back in May of 2023 through Golden Auction. Now, there were two other 52 Topps Mickey Mantle cards that sold in July. Both, the first one is another authentic altered, which is actually the copy that sold on July 30th, but this one sold prior to that on July 15th for $32,000. And then there was a PSA 1 copy that sold on July 18th for $28,251. All right, on to the cards from the 1960s. Coming in at number 10, we have this 1965 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on July 24th for $4,695. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $4,395, but the record high sale was $9,900 back in March of 2022 through REA. And number 9, we have this 1969 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 9. This one sold on July 15th for $4,939. It was an auction. There were 38 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $3,080. The record high sale was $8,700 back in June of 2023 through PWCC. Now, this PSA 9 copy is one of 87 that have been graded a PSA 9. There have been 6 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 8, we have this 1961 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on July 29th for $5,500. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $4,693, but the record high sale was $10,025 back in December of 2022 through SCP Auctions. At number 7, we have this 1960 post-serial Mickey Mantle hand-cut card in a PSA 2.5. This one sold on July 16th for $6,900. It was a buy it now. There's no current VCP average price because this card was not in VCP's database. It is a newly graded copy, and it is the only copy that has been graded a PSA 2.5. Now, there have been 3 graded a PSA 3, and the only other copy is a only higher copy is a PSA 6 that has a population of 1. At number 6, we have this 1960 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on July 31st for $6,995. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $6,799. The record high sale was $12,000 back in February of 2024 through Heritage. At number 5, we have this 1969 Topps Mickey Mantle last name in yellow, the more common version, in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on July 28th for $7,225. It was an auction. There were 38 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8.5 is $8,020. The record high sale was $10,800 back in April of 2022 through REA. At number 4, we have this 1963 Topps Pete Rose rookie card in a PSA 7.5. This one sold on July 3rd for $8,311. It was an auction. There were 78 bids, and the current VCP average price for a PSA 7.5 is $8,506. The record high sale was $9,900 back in March of 2021 through REA. And there were 2 other significant 63 Topps Pete Rose rookie cards sold in July. Another PSA 7.5 sold on July 4th for $7,300, and a PSA 7 sold on July 22nd for $3,899. Coming in at number 3, we have this 1968 Topps Nolan Ryan rookie card in a PSA 8. This one sold on July 22nd for $8,852. It was an auction. There were 44 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $8,351. The record high sale was $11,400 back in December of 2021 through REA. Now, there were 2 other significant 68 Topps Nolan Ryan rookie card sales in July, both PSA 8 copies. The first one sold on July 29th for $8,600, and another on July 4th for $8,000. Coming in at number 2, we have this 1969 Topps Nolan Ryan in a PSA 9 and a very old PSA slab. This one sold on July 26th for $10,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $10,524. The record high sale was $19,200 back in February of 2024 through Heritage. There have been 127 copies graded a PSA 9. Only 3 have been graded a PSA 10. And the number one card for July is this 1960 Topps Roman Meijas in a PSA 9. This one sold on July 31st for $15,000. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $17,100. That's because the record high sale was $19,200 back in February of this year through REA. Now, this card represents one of only 7 copies in a PSA 9, and there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the 1960 Topps Roman Meijas card. All right, on to the cards from the 1970s. Coming in at number 10, we have this 1975 Topps Joe Morgan in a PSA 10. This one sold on July 7th for $3,850. It was an auction. There were 45 bids. Now, the current VCP average price for a PSA 10 is technically $11,849. That's because there was a strange record high sale of $27,258 back in May of this year through Memory Lane. Definitely a huge outlier in all the other PSA 10 graded copies of this Joe Morgan card. There have been 335 copies graded a PSA 9, but this PSA 10 here is one of only 9 copies to have received that grade. At number 9, we have this 1970 Topps Hank Aaron in a PSA 9. This one sold on July 8th for $3,972. It was an auction. There were 40 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $3,677. The record high sale was $5,800 back in February of 2024 through eBay. There have been 85 copies graded a PSA 9. Only 6 have been graded a PSA 10. At number 8, we have this 1972 Topps Phil Niekro in a PSA 10. This one sold on July 26th for $3,986. It was an auction. There was only 1 bid. The current VCP average price is this sale here at $3,986 and represents a new record high sale for a PSA 10 copy. The previous high was $1,126 all the way back in July of 2016 through eBay. Now, while there have been 33 copies graded a PSA 9, this one here is only one of 2 copies that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 7, we have this 1973 Kellogg's Carlton Fisk in a PSA 10. This one sold on July 1st for $4,688. It was a best offer. Now, the current VCP average price is only $115. This represents a new record high sale, and the reason why the current VCP average price is only $115 is that the previous high was only $150 just back in February of 2024 through eBay. Now, in a PSA 9, there have been 229 copies graded. There have been 118 graded a PSA 10, so this isn't a rare card to find in a PSA 10, so this sale for $4,688 is definitely a head-scratcher. Coming in at number 6, we have this 1975 Topps George Brett in a PSA 9. This one sold on July 9th for $5,000. It was an auction. There were 2 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $4,831. The record high sale was $8,562 back in July of 2021 through memory lane. There have been 325 copies graded a PSA 9. Only 11 have been graded a PSA 10. At number 5, we have this 1971 Topps Nolan Ryan in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on July 20th for $5,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8.5 is $4,331. The record high sale was not too far from this sale here at $5,150 back in May of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay. At number 4, we have a newly popular card, the 1974 Laughlin Old Time Josh Gibson card in a PSA 8. This one sold on July 15th for $6,102. It was an auction. There were 28 bids. Current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $3,321. This particular eBay sale here represents a new record high sale for a PSA 8 copy. The previous high was $3,000 last month through eBay. In a PSA 8, there have been 22 graded copies. There have only been one graded a PSA 9, and there have not been any PSA 10 graded copies. Now, there were 2 other significant 74 Laughlin Josh Gibson sales in July. This first one here is a PSA 6.5 sold on July 19th for $2,750, and a PSA 8 off-center sold on July 12th also for $2,750. At number 3, we have this 1973 O-Pee-Chee Mike Schmidt rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on July 11th for $6,250. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $4,650. The record high sale was $10,099 back in June of 2022 through eBay. There have been 46 graded a PSA 9, only 6 have been graded a PSA 10. At number 2, we have this 1970 Topps Nolan Ryan in a PSA 9, another old slab Nolan Ryan card. This one sold on July 26th for $7,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $7,895. The record high sale was $29,995 back in March of 2023 through eBay. There have been 130 graded a PSA 9, only 3 have been graded a PSA 10. Now, there were 2 other significant 1970 Topps Nolan Ryan sales in July. A PSA 9 copy sold on July 28th for $5,855, and a PSA 8.5 sold on July 13th for $2,900. And the number 1 sale for cards from the 1970s for July is this 1971 Topps George Stone in a PSA 10. So hard to find 71 Topps cards in that pristine gem mint 10 condition. This one sold on July 17th for $12,700. It was an auction. There were 22 bids, and the current VCP average price is this sale here at $12,700 and represents a new record high sale for a PSA 10. The previous high was $1,880 all the way back in September of 2008 through eBay. Now, while there have been 26 copies graded a PSA 9, this one here is one of only 3 that have been graded a PSA 10. Well, there you go. The top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay for cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s for July 2024. As always, would love to know in the comments what you think about the cards that made the 3 top 10 lists. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.